All right, welcome back, everyone. We are actually going to start discussing the social justice frameworks. Now that you have looked at some number sense and reasoning routines this evening, thought about what Rita Pearson said, as we move into the Common Core state standards, we also need to be incredibly aware of the social justice framework. So the social justice frameworks come from the Learning for Justice, which used to be Teaching for Tolerance website. And there are four interrelated principles of social justice: equity, access, participation, and rights. And there are four social justice standards: identity, diversity, justice, and action. And as we move through the course, we want to consider how the principled ideas of CGI are aligned with the social justice framework. Because if we look at mathematics and we think about the traditional mathematics classroom, and then we think about the classroom guided by cognitively guided instruction, we are really trying to liberate not only students, but also teachers to be able to break free from the traditional um, sort of focused lens that only looks from the white perspective and open that lens and include all peoples of color, all nationalities, and all cultures in our learning. And by opening the ways of thinking up to multiple views, we are inviting participation by all. So think about the principles of CGI, and I'll read them here for you. Every student comes to math class knowing some mathematics. Every student is capable of extending their mathematical ideas. Knowing the development of children's thinking helps teachers know how to support learning. Answering the question, what am I learning, working towards? Details of children's thinking support instructional decision making. And we must challenge our assumptions about what students know and are able to do. And this is where we need to do a lot of internal work and examine the biases that we might consciously or unconsciously hold as we enter the classrooms and approach work with young people. We must create space for the participation of each and honor the different ways in which students are participating. Remember, we've talked about that there is not just one right way. And by creating space for all different kinds of ways and different diverse thought patterns, we are liberating ourselves and our students from this singular path of that was just dictated historically in the mathematical classrooms. And we also want to remember that identity shapes participation. So we want to position students competently, invite them into the classroom, and celebrate their thinking. We also need to make sure that we're doing work ourselves as educators on our own biases. So this is a little bit of an aside. How are we approaching students that are different from ourselves? And I have been doing a lot of work myself on this, thinking about unconscious bias as growing up in Southern California, and I was educated in the UC system. I grew up in Santa Monica. I had a quote unquote good education, but there were many things that weren't surfaced in my education. And I'm actively working on becoming an anti-racist educator and also um, leaning against the traditional pillars of white supremacy that exist in our educational structure. We also need to lean into the systemic racism that's in our educational system, as well as examine the microaggressions that occur in the discretionary spaces in the classroom, whether they are interactions with groups of students or individual students or between students. And we need to intervene to make sure that all students' voices are heard and honored and recognized for the brilliance that they are. So, Learning for Justice, formerly known as Teaching for Tolerance, is at this website that you see here. Okay, and I'll put that in our file for you. So you can go to this and you'll see the social justice standards here. There's identity anchor standards, diversity anchor standards, justice anchor standards, and action anchor standards. And they are also um, developed for each grade level. So while this is not the purpose of our course, it is important because we are coming at mathematics from a very human perspective, and we need to acknowledge all of the things that make up each human that walks through the door of our classroom. And there are some other websites. The Abolitionist Teaching Network with Dr. Bettina Love is also a great resource. They have a fantastic webinar here that you see that Brian Jones facilitated with Dr. Bettina Love, Dr. Goldie Mohammed, and Dr. Dina Simmons. And it's 45 minutes of your time. Very, very well spent. Again, it's optional, so I'm not going to put the link in there, but I think it's a fantastic webinar to watch. And you can get it by going to Abolitionist Teaching Network. Tonight, we are going to read an article called What Anti-Racism Really Means for Educators. It was written by Jamila Pitts in September of 2020. So we're going to take a moment to read it, and then I want you to take a golden line from the article and go to the Jamboard, and you are going to add your golden line to the Jamboard here. All right? So that's it for this segment. Off you go.